All right, well, we're one holding by Leviticus chapter 16. Again, welcome everyone. Holding by Leviticus chapter 16. We're in verse 30. Still working through the Rabbeinu B'chai, which hopefully we're going to finish today. I said hopefully. We'll see how far we get. The Torah says, again, Leviticus chapter 16. Verse 30, it says, Ki biyom hazeh yechaper aleichem letayer eschem mikol chatoseichem lifnei Hashem titaru. The Torah says, for that day, he shall provide atonement, cleanse you from all your sins before Hashem. You shall be cleansed. Again, we're talking about Yom Kippur, right? We're talking about the holy day of Yom Kippur. So, the Rabbeinu B'chai over here, we mentioned the last few weeks that the Rabbeinu B'chai started off saying that this is a special day, Yom Kippur. It's a day for atonement. Why it's known as a day of atonement, where God gives us atonement if we properly repent, and Jewish people are going to be pure. And if there, God forbid, our sins between man and God, Yom Kippur is going to atone, right? Depending on what they are. And if it's a sin between man and man, Yom Kippur does not atone, no matter how many Yom Kippurs you go through, no matter how much fasting you do, it will not help because you have to appease your fellow man, right? If you did something wrong against him. And then we mentioned, I think this is where we got to. And that is that when the Kohen Gadol, when the high priest confesses on Yom Kippur, so in his prayers, he uses God's name of 42 letters, right? There's a name of God, it's got 42 letters. And he says that we say in our prayers, what do we say? We mention on Yom Kippur, God should give us atonement, and the name of God we use is the one that has 42 letters. Right? That's what Rabbeinu B'chai here says. And that's why it says on Yom Kippur, at the end of this verse, right? The end of verse 30, what do we say? We say, Lifnei Hashem titaru. Before God, He's going to make us pure. When is that? That's on Yom Kippur, right? But how does that work? That works using this name of God, right? This name of God of 42 letters. And then we mentioned, this is what we got stuck on last week, right? We mentioned that Yom Kippur is Rachamim B'din, is compassion with judgment, right? So that we spoke about, right? That we spoke about how you can have judgment with compassion and not strict judgment. And then he says, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, has to supplicate, has to have all these supplications to the judge. He has to give all these supplications to the judge. Right? In other words, he has to pray, obviously, from the depth of his heart. He's got to pray from the depth of his heart to the judge. And who's that judge? The judge who sits on the heavenly throne. And everybody comes in front of him. Everyone comes, they're going to have to give tests. They're going to have to get judged. Right? Non-Jews not aware, should be aware. The judgment by non-Jews also. On Yom Kippur. Doesn't mean, on Rosh Hashanah. Now, it doesn't mean, they have to, pray what we do, or seemingly really say that much on Rosh Hashanah, right? But the day of judgment is for everybody. See, Judaism is a universal religion, quote unquote. Because every other religion is believe in our Savior, you fry now forever. Judaism says no, you want a portion of the world to come. Doesn't mean you have to convert. You can stay a non-Jew. You keep the no-I laws. Plenty of things to do, right? Even without being a Jew. Now, that being the case, right? That being the case, they are going to get judged for what they do as well. They're not aware of it. Okay. All right. So what? They don't have to be aware of anything. Right? God judges the entire world, because what do we commemorate on Rosh Hashanah? If you look at a Rosh Hashanah prayer book, it's all about judgment, right? That's the theme of the day. It's making God king, right? And judgment. At the same time, what do I see? What do I see by judgment over here? That everyone, Jews or non-Jews, are going to have to go through this process. Right? Every year, everywhere we get judged. And then after that, when a person dies, after 120 years, God is going to judge them for everything, for everything that they did. Now, here, what is he doing? He's praying from the depth of his heart for the sake of himself, his family, and for the sake of the Jewish people. That the Jewish people should get atonement. Now, we mentioned Yom Kippur atones for actions between man and God. Now, the question is going to be that what if a person doesn't repent? Right? We mentioned this before. What if they don't repent? They don't repent. Does Yom Kippur atone? Does Yom Kippur by itself, does it have the power to atone? And if a person doesn't confess, they don't admit they've done anything wrong. Right? According to the Rambam, well, the repentant, the Rambam says, all I have to say is, I've sinned. That's it. According to the Rambam, that's a Torah obligation. Right? So they're going to say why. But you see, in a Yom Kippur prayer book, there are a lot of other things we say. They sin willfully, they were corrupted, they, spoke Lashon Hara. Most of the sins that we beat our chest for on Yom Kippur are things we've said. Most things on Yom Kippur we're trying to get atonement for are things we said. Right? Pretty scary proposition. So again, if someone doesn't repent, they have no interest in repenting, why should they get atonement? Maybe you tell me the day itself is so holy that even if a person doesn't repent between man and God, they get atonement. Maybe. Right? Maybe we'll say such a thing. That they should gain atonement. But what's the obvious question? The obvious question is they didn't repent. We just said if it's between man and man, you have to appease the other person. You don't appease the other person. Doesn't matter what you do on Yom Kippur. Doesn't matter how many Yom Kippurs you go through. Doesn't help. Totally doesn't help. But what about between man and God? For many things, Yom Kippur will atone. Okay. What if they don't ask forgiveness? Does God have that level of mercy where someone doesn't even have to come in front of him, admit they've done anything wrong, and because of abracadabra comes Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur atones? Wow, wouldn't that be nice? That'd be amazing. I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to go to synagogue. I don't have to admit I did anything wrong. Yom Kippur, abracadabra. Abracadabra. Yom Kippur itself is holy enough and atones and you don't do anything. It has powers, no question. No question about it, it's got power. Yeah. But who says it's got enough power that it atones even if you don't do anything? So Rabbeinu Bachai says, the high priest got a major job over here. What's his job? His job is to say all these supplications in front of God to gain atonement for him, his family, and the entire Jewish nation. But everyone gets judged. Non-Jews also get judged, we mentioned. But you got to answer. You got to answer to God himself. Not enough, just sit there and do nothing. So why the name of God 42 letters? The one thing he says, we're not going to get into Kabbalah that much. He says, one of the 42 letters God used to create the world. Right? God looked into the alphabet to create the world. Or used part of the alphabet, whatever it was. And he created the world. Yeah, so it goes to this whole thing. It goes to the whole thing, right? Really, it's Kabbalah here. But there's one other thing I think I wanted to see. So he wants to mention one point here. And he says that there are 10 times that the Kohen mentions this name. This name of 42 letters. So he says the first time is by the first confession. Right? 3 times by confession. The first confession. 3 times by second confession, which is 3. 3 and 3 is 6. 3 times by the Sira Mishtaleach, the goat that is going to get sacrificed. And the one that the lot fell on, right, to be sacrificed. The other one we've mentioned before is going to go to Azazel, right? Not that it's another god, but it's going to go in the desert and it's going to die in the desert. However, it dies in the desert. So you see, there are 10 times. 10 times it's mentioned. 10 times it's mentioned over here, right? This name is going to be mentioned. So he says, where's it crucial? Right? He says we say a certain thing in the prayer on Yom Kippur, where everybody, including the one leading the service, gets on their hands and they bow. Right? They bow on their knees. Now, on Yom Kippur, just as a side point, we do this 5 times. Right? It's kind of hard when you're fasting, you're on your knees, a whole bunch of times, and you have to get up. It's, not so easy. Right? But we do it 5 times. Come on, the Muslims, not that we care, but the Muslims say like this. The Muslims say, hey, the Jews bow down to God 5 times, 1 day a year. We're going to show we're so much better, even if they worship the same God, which is what we hold, right? Most people hold that Islam, they believe in the same God. Might be misguided, but they believe in one God. And the same God will make it easy. We'll make it easy. So what happened? So what else? So what do they say? So they say, the Jews only do it 1 time, 1 day a year. We're going to show them we're much better. We're going to do it 5 times every day. Okay. So you see here in Israel a lot, like going on the bus, whatever, you see some Muslims just like they're on a work site, whatever, throw down a mat and they're on the ground. They're on the ground praying. Yeah. A lot shorter service and whatever they say. But yeah, 5. So they say 5 times a day we're going to do it. Not just once a year, 5 times. Right. So what's the version we say in our prayer books? That we hear the Shema Mefurish. Right. This is this, ineffable name of God. Comes out from the high priest. The high priest mentions this name of God, the 42 letters. He says in holiness and purity. And then we bow. We fall on our faces. And then we say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Le'olam Va'ed. We say, God, the source of our blessing, may his name be honored, his kingship be honored forever. We do that 5 times. Right? We do that 5 times where we bow. All right, then he goes through a whole other thing here, which which we're not going to get to. Right? We're not going to go through. But anyway, the point over here is that, yeah, he's using this name of God. And how that name of God's mentioned 10 times. We say it 10 times. It's mentioned 10 times in the confession. Right? 3 times the first one, 3 times the second one, 3 times by the other sacrifice, etc. And then 1 other time. So he's pointed out the power what the Kohen's doing, what the high priest is doing. Yeah, in spiritual terms. That's a huge thing. A huge thing. But, repentance in general is a hard thing. We mentioned before, the Kli Yakar says, and this question comes up quite a bit. How do I know I truly repented? And the answer is you don't. You don't. Why not? Because God's the only one who knows. The Kli Yakar says clear. God's the only one who knows what's really in a person's heart. Now, someone could say, I felt it, this or that. Yeah. So what do? We put our best foot forward. And we hope we did everything we needed to do. Yeah, could it be things we didn't do? Maybe we're not going to get so much credit. Could be. But we believe, A, God's going to have mercy. And B, that we did everything we could have done. We're not faking ourselves out. We could always beat ourselves up and say, well, we didn't really do it so well. I could have done it better. Maybe I didn't fulfill my obligation. And a person's OCD, and then they go off. Why? Because they're saying, I can never do it. I can never know. Did I really do it? I didn't really do it. Drive us nuts. Other people say, well, I felt God forgave me. Okay. Yeah. We do the best to our ability. That's our obligation. Right? Nothing more, nothing less. But the reality is, the Kli Yakar says, and we'll take his word for it. The Kli Yakar says that God's the only one that knows. He's the only one that truly knows what's in our heart. Because that's what the Rambam says, one of the 13 principles of faith. The Rambam says God knows the thoughts of man. So if he knows the thoughts of man, I still have to have, you're going to say, well, he knows my thoughts, so why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do it? Because he wants you to do it. He wants you to repent. He wants you to admit you've done something wrong. That's what repentance is. That's what the Rambam said. That's the whole point. I have sinned. You have to say, I've sinned in front of you. You beat your chest. I sinned in front of you doing this, doing that, doing the other thing. Why do you have to say in front of you? Because you make it clear God is everywhere. I sinned in front of him right now. Or not right now, before, whatever it was. It's not just like you did it, God didn't hear it. No, you say it. And there's good reason why you have to say it. Yeah, you're going to say, I sinned. No, isn't that good enough? No. You have to say you sinned in front of him, make you feel like an absolute piece of dirt. Right? That's what you got to do. You got to say, God, I sinned right in front of your face. Well, you're going to say, well, doesn't God have mercy? He may have mercy. Couldn't God, say, wow, very good. You admitted you sinned in front of my face. But what you did, you spit in front of my face. Kind of hard to admit something like that, right? Well, what's the problem? We go through the motions. Not that we should. We could go through the motions and say, yeah, I sinned doing this, I sinned doing that, right? You beat your chest symbolically because where did you sin? Where did the sin come from? Your heart. Your heart convinced you to do this, that, and the other thing. No, your mind's telling you, no. Your heart's saying yes, yes, yes. Mind to heart disconnect. But see, the rabbis understood. The rabbis understood. They understood that it's not enough in your heart. It's not enough to say I did something bad in my heart. Because you know what? In general, words in your heart don't mean anything. Thoughts don't mean anything in general. It's what I say and it's what I do. Thoughts can come back to harm us. We're not going to go there, but a person can get punished for their thoughts for certain things. In general, thoughts don't matter. But they can control how I think. They can put me on the wrong path. They can do a lot of things bad. That's true. Controlling thoughts is very important. That's also true. But you don't necessarily get punished for your thoughts. You get punished for your actions. So what does God want? At the very least, He wants you to say, you know what? You've done something wrong. It's not enough to say it in your mind. Saying the mantra in your mind is not going to have the same effect. You're going to say, if I say it out loud, it might not also have the same effect. No, because we definitely believe saying things out loud have an effect. Like, Rebbe during COVID would say, people asking him about, emunah and bitachon, having proper faith and belief in God and everything going on, everything being shut down and, and all that, without getting into any conspiracy theories and whatever. But what did he say? He said the mantra every day, at least a few times a day, should be, God, you're the one in charge. You are the one in charge. You're the one who runs the world. Period. Yeah. And he said you should say it many times. You should say it, I shouldn't say many. You should say it a number of times during the day. Now, I've heard people say, yeah, I try certain mantras. God, you're the one in charge. Nothing bad can happen to me because you're the one in charge, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't work. They'll say, I tried it, it doesn't work. So what's Kaufman's answer? Do it again. Do it a third time. Do it a fifth time. Spirituality is a hard thing to attain. It's a very hard thing to attain. Impurity is very easy to attain. How does a person become impure? By touch. If the temple existed today, you touch a dead animal, you're impure. So impurity is very easy. Purity is hard. Famous story. There's a famous story with the Baal HaTanya, first Lubavitcher Rebbe, a blessed memory. He had a student that wanted to go to university. Right? I told the story before. It's a good story though. And he warned him about all the immorality and all the courses and heresy that's in universities. So his student said, listen, I've been learning about you for a long time. I didn't become so righteous. So if I go to university, I'm not going to be so bad either. Right? In other words, you didn't have that effect on me. They're not going to have that effect on me. The Baal HaTanya said, you're making a mistake. Exactly what we said. You want to become impure. How do you become impure? Touch. All you have to do is touch it. You touch that animal, the temple existed, you're impure. Oh, you want purity? That's going to take effort. That's not an overnight thing. As I told people in the process of conversion or some of the, becoming a Baal Tshuva, you're in for the long haul. There's a lot you got to do. There's a lot you got to process. And not everything's easy to process because we can see a lot of things we don't like. And we're going to be the first ones to critique it and say, wow, maybe we should change this. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do the other thing. Maybe. Right? But if you're on the outside looking in, this is what it is. There aren't, huge changes that are made throughout the generations. You know what they say? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Right? Yeshiva system is what it is. Okay, so you have different types of yeshivas for people to go to. Some people learn fast, some places learn faster, some slower, some, different ways to look at things. So now they're trying to cater to a lot of different people because not everyone fits in a box. Okay? That's been worked on. And it helps a lot of people. But you see, if the system itself works, there's no question. That is no question. There's a flaw in us. And we're lazy. Bottom line is we're lazy. We want everything to be easy. We don't want to have any hardship. And we think we know better. And when we looked at history, people thought they could reinvent the wheel, got slammed. We see it a number of times in the Torah. You see it first by Adam and Eve. Adam thought he knew better. The Medrash says, if I take evil inside of me, right, and I overcome it exponentially, I get rewards. If I do the wrong thing exponentially, I could suffer. True. So he thought he's going to reinvent the wheel. God said, you're right, 100%. That is the way evil works. If it's inside of you, you're 100% right. God said, that's not what I wanted. I didn't create the world for that. So the Gemara says God calls him a heretic, the greatest of all creation. Adam was like almost an angel in a human body. Can't understand who Adam was. But at the same time, he thought he knew better. And God says, no. Not only that, God calls his greatest creation, he calls him a heretic. A heretic. He doesn't say made a mistake, etc. He says you're a heretic. A heretic means you're denying certain things about God. Or thinking maybe you know better, right? The Rambam has a whole list who's considered a heretic. You can believe everything Moses says except one verse. That means you deny the Torah's divinity, right? Or you think the prophets got it from themselves. That's denying divinity, right? Oh, he's got a whole list there. A whole list there, right? That's one example. One example, right? Give you another example. You take Korach. Korach thought he knew better. Listen, he saw out of his progeny who's going to come out of him, Samuel the prophet. He says, listen, look at me. Look who's coming out of me, Samuel the prophet. Moshe showing favoritism. What do you mean? Right, the Be'er Shem El Moshe Lemor. Torah says clear. God said to Moshe, saying, tell the Jewish people. God said to Moses and Aaron, tell the Jewish people, or whatever. Moses said, I'm not doing it on my own. God told me this is what I should do. Aaron should be the high priest. And not you. Nah, come on. Then he started making fun of it. Come on. He said, if I have all these strings for tzitzis, why do I need a special blue string? I started making fun of it. Now think about who Korach was. Korach was one of the 20% came out of Egypt. Right? Korach was one who held the ark. Not everyone who held the ark was worthy and they died. Not a fool. What are they making fun of? Because he thinks he knows better. When a person thinks they know better, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to fail. It's not even a curse. Not even a curse to anyone. There are a number of precedents in the Torah itself that say you want to reinvent the wheel, not going to happen. Not going to happen because the Torah dictates otherwise. And every single time someone thought that they knew better, comes along the Torah and says, so Ray says, no. So someone could say, but that's what the Torah says. So what about what we're living today? A lot of it's rabbinical. So again, Deuteronomy chapter 17, we have to listen to what they say. They know a heck of a lot more than we do. Right? It's no question. Right? So at the same time, we're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel is what it is. We even perfected things, okay? Can we make it better? Can there be improvements? Sure. That there's no question. But are you going to throw the whole thing out when the systems work for 2,000 years? No. That we're not going to do. But you're going to say, not everyone's going to come out the same. Not everyone's a cookie cutter. True? It's also true. Right? So a person, has to take their kids and put them in the school that hopefully it's best for them. It's not foolproof. I'm not saying it's foolproof. And kids hate school in general. They're there for long hours, this and that, but they have to learn. Boys have to learn extra hours. They got a lot to learn. A ton to learn. They have to know how to learn. Right? And they have to learn Gemara. So it's going to take longer. They have to learn how it works. That's the only way it gets passed down. And it's not just for the elite. Everyone has to know how to learn. Right? Guys have to know how to learn. Women less. Much less. They have to know what to do in other things. Halacha they need to know. Jewish law they need to know. Okay. But at the same time, yeah, improvements can be made. That there's no question. That 100% is no question. The question is thinking, okay, let's change the whole system. That's not going to happen. And that's not a benefit. Because for the most part, the system's intact, system works. Does everyone fit the same mold? No. Some people learn one way, some people learn a different way. Okay, but the bottom line is they have to know what to do. They have to be able to pass it down to the next generation. Yeah, so you got to give them the best chance for that to happen. Right? So again, when we see things, a lot of things we don't necessarily understand. And that's okay, because, there's just a lot of things to know. But at the same time, a person has to realize, yeah, we're not living in a perfect, we're not we have to realize that outright change is not going to happen, right? Things here and there, maybe, as we said, there can always be improvement. No one's saying not, right? But again, I've had people here. My neighbor asked me, plenty of synagogues to learn, in, why do you go on this bus every day or a few times a week, whatever, go learn this other place. Because I said, I've had a lot of divine inspiration there. Learned a lot there. So I said, I've had a lot of good things happen there. So I'm always fond of saying, if it's not broken, you don't fix it. Why do I need to look for another place? Right? It's also good to get out a little bit, even without all that. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We're looking to, emphasize what's good and what's strong. And yeah, improvements can always be improved. Right? That's not a question. So that pretty much ends the Rabbeinu B'chaya. So there are a bunch of questions here. Someone asked, we're not allowed to be compassionate like Hashem, but how much he wants to be compassionate. Right? It says God has a lot of compassion. Compassion is not infinite. Right? It's definitely not infinite. At the same time, God has compassion. Sometimes if we have compassion where we're not supposed to, we're called cruel. Mentioned last time, Pirkei Avos, King Solomon says in Proverbs, if you spear the rod, you're considered cruel. What does spear the rod mean? Punishment, right? Smacking a kid, right? That's what it is, right? Seemingly, that's what it is. Is hitting someone. Anyone going to hit someone today? Forget it. They'll put you in jail. And not only that, it doesn't work today. Different generation. Totally different generation. We're not advocating that. But what does he mean? What does King Solomon mean? He's saying you have to discipline. Kids want discipline. They may not admit it. They want discipline. They don't want to live an orderless life. They want to have boundaries. They want to just do whatever they want because then they go crazy. They want to have boundaries. So King Solomon says you got to give them boundaries. You have to educate them properly. And if need be, you have to punish. But you got to make sure if a person has to punish, you make sure the punishment fits the crime. You don't punish out of anger. You should never punish out of anger. Not so easy. Person's tired, other things going on. Kid does something, just lash out. Wrong thing to do. But you're going to say, okay, it was a mistake. You're right. Costly mistake. Kids don't always understand. They get older, they understand better. Yeah, but damage is already done, as they say. But there's still an obligation, discipline. If they do something wrong, you have to know how to discipline. You got to make sure when you discipline, the punishment fits the crime. Because punishment should never be out of anger, and it has to be moderate. It cannot be too harsh. Even if we think, it's okay. I'm not saying you let them get off scot-free. It depends what they did. Right? Sometimes the punishment should be, could be severe. It depends. But today, people are afraid to punish. I'm not talking about hitting the kid. Right? They're Why are people afraid to punish in some ways? They're afraid to punish because of the repercussions. You're going to say, what? Kids are so weak today. They'll say, fine, you punish me. Teenagers will say this. You say, oh, you're not going to let me do this? I'll show you. I'm going to go off. Well, who does that hurt? It hurts the parent for sure. But who does that hurt more? It hurts the kid. So they're going to say, look at what I'm going to, like it's a threat. See, if I go off, you're not going to be married off the rest of your kids. That's my brothers and sisters, so you better give me what I want. Parents today, each generation has their own evil inclination. There's no question. Parents today have to be like the Rock of Gibraltar, no matter what the kids come home with. Right? Whether, teenagers for sure, and hormones and all kinds of things going on. But the bottom line is parents cannot be bullied by kids. Kids do not call the shots. I saw, and I didn't understand this till many years later. So I had teenage kids, but I was by somebody, whatever in the States, people weren't religious. And this teenager, just in front of, other people, just shot their mother down, like no tomorrow. Just slammed the mother for something, in front of other people. One thing, you do it in private, do it in your own home, no one's around. Another thing, you do it in public. Public's worse. So I asked the mother, I said, you gonna take this? You gonna take this from your child? Like total brazenness. Yeah, I gotta think of a few other adjectives, but we'll keep this clean. And the mother looked at me and said, wow, that's how kids talk to the parents. Yeah, if you let them. If you let them be disrespectful, they'll be disrespectful. But what kind of answer is that? Well, this is what all kids do. Really? That's what all kids do. That's your answer. They're pretty pathetic. Totally pathetic. No question. But, that hit more, hit home more. My kids were teenagers. Even being in a proper environment, okay, they still have to be taught. There are red lines, things you can't say, not allowed to say, got to show respect. No question. But people today, they want to be overly permissive. Well, that's cruel. If you're overly permissive, you're called being cruel. As someone told me a number of years ago, kids, I don't know, computer, TV, this, that, no filters. I'm like, what do you mean no filters? How do you not have filters? How do you not watch, or at least see what they're doing, this and that? But they weren't teenagers yet. They're younger than that. I don't know, it was 11, what was 7 or 8 or whatever it was. No filters? Let them watch whatever they want. You can say, well, that's an extreme. I don't know if it's an extreme. I didn't take a survey. But if you're going to let your kids, have a phone or, a computer or whatever, it should be filtered. You're not seeing all kinds of garbage, but that's what they do. Some people. Certain ages are, they can watch this, they can watch that, but this person said it's unfiltered. It's like, that's not so responsible. Like different type of parenting today. I don't know. But that's irresponsible. They don't have to just see whatever they want. Not to mention forget about going on and on about how bad things people say. And, when I was growing up, okay, way back when, things are a little more wholesome. Today, or 10 years after that, forget it. I didn't grow up in Victorian England either. So a person's overly compassionate, that's not good, necessarily. Yeah. If a person needs to discipline, being overly compassionate doesn't help. Someone once told me, we're punishing kids, they shouldn't punish kids, and this and that. So I told them, They didn't have kids at the time. So I said, imagine. I said, your 2-year-old just ran into the street. Right? Cars going back and forth. Your 2-year-old runs into the street. Do you just tell them, oh, Beryl, come here. I have a cookie. I have something to give you. You know, this and that. No. You scream and scare the wits out of this kid that'll never do it again. Or you have somebody, you have a kid where it actually happened to me, where, you know, one of my kids had a screwdriver, you know, trying to take apart a light socket. Well, I got that screwdriver out of this kid's hand, you know, in 3 seconds. You know, you're gonna say, no, I'm gonna let this kid play with a light socket? I don't think so. Right? He sees that screwdriver and he gets zapped. Right? That's how electricity works in general. Yeah. You're not gonna say, oh, can I have the screwdriver? No. You scare the dickens out of them in order that they shouldn't do it. Now, some people say you don't have to scare them that much. Whatever, you do what you can. You get the screwdriver out of their hand, and then you tell them that's not something you do, and it's dangerous, and get a big boo-boo and all that. You know, but this person was like horrified. I said, when you have kids, you'll understand. You understand. Your kid runs in the middle of traffic, you'll go ballistic. You're not gonna be all cool, calm, and collect. It's like, oh, come here, son. You know, come here, daughter, come. No, you're going to scream and scare them so they never do it again. And you explain to them. But first, you got to do whatever it takes so they don't run on the street. Right? So there are times when we should not be compassionate. Right? Who says someone says something that goes against, it goes against God, goes against Torah mitzvahs. What does the Torah say? Torah says you got to rebuke. Now you're going to say we don't know how to rebuke, whatever, right? Not so cut and dry. Automatically, someone does something or says something, you smash them, right? Can't embarrass them, right? Because the end of the verse says you don't want to take on the sins. You can't embarrass them, right? You know, if they're a heretic, might be a different issue. Could be allowed to embarrass them according to the laws of Lashon Hara. Yeah. But even though the Torah states clear, I'm allowed to rebuke and I'm obligated to rebuke, first of all, we don't know how to do rebuke today, but that's not a blanket permissibility. Right? You can't just say, well, we don't know how to rebuke, so I don't have to rebuke them. No. They probably should be rebuked anyway. Right? But, we're going to get there. We're going to get there one day. Right? In chapter 19. Right? One day, probably about 102. Right, we'll get there. But the point is, you're going to say, well, face value is not what it says. It says rebuke, right? Torah doesn't tell me how. Torah doesn't give me any definitions here. Right? Torah's a law book. Torah tells me what to do, what not to do. But, so what about putting a stumbling block in front of someone? You're supposed to rebuke them, right? Case came up, someone was at the Super Bowl. Yeah, from Jews at the Super Bowl for whatever reason. Right, and he's sitting there next to another Jew. This other Jew gets a hot dog, non-kosher hot dogs, you have to pass it to him. You say, what do you mean? You're not eating it. You're right. Someone else could give it to him. True. But you're giving it to him. What's the problem? What are you stumbling block in front of him? So now you're going to tell me, but if you don't do that, he's going to say, what? I can't eat what I want. You have to watch over what I'm eating. Person will hate Judaism more. Who says you're allowed to give it to him? Right? This is a serious question. No joke. It's a Torah prohibition. This is a clear-cut Torah prohibition, not putting a stumbling block in front of someone else. Now, what if you have, let's say, a non-religious person's at your table. They're at your table, and they want food. Right? They want food. Okay. So whatever you're eating, if you pass it to them, they're not going to make a blessing. Okay. If they're not going to make a blessing, how can I give it to them? You're going to say, if you don't pass it to them, It looks rude. Okay. But there's a serious prohibition here. You're putting a stumbling block in front of them. So what do? So the case really was someone had to get something fixed in their house. Plumber comes, or a wash machine person comes, whatever it is. They're Jewish, they're not going to make a blessing. You ask them, they don't want to make a blessing. Yeah. They ask for a cup of water. Now, some people are not that anti, they'll make a blessing. Other people, may say, you can't force me this and that. I'll have to give them a cup of water. Now, I'm going to say, they'll hate Judaism more if you don't. True. So comes along, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, one of the Torah giants of the last generation, right? No question. So he says you're allowed to give it to them. Better to put it in front of them, they take it themselves. But you're allowed to give it to them. Why? Because it's hatred. So a secular Jew, no different, right? I mean, it's also secular Jew, right? Somebody got by, let's say your Shabbos table. And I'm not talking where they're growing in Torah mitzvahs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone does things out of desire, they're never going to change, right? Let's say. So how can you give it to them? They don't make a blessing. It's a stumbling block. So what's the best case scenario? Best case scenario is stick it in front of them. So you don't have that problem. And then they take it themselves. And what happens if you can't do that? They just reach out their hand. So then you give it to them. Then you're allowed to. But see, most people won't even ask the question. So yeah, there are times you're going to get rebuked. You can't embarrass somebody. You should know what you're doing. But it's a complicated thing. It's not just, wow, the Torah says you give rebuke. You're right. That's what the Torah says. The Torah tell me how? The Torah tell me in what situation? The Torah doesn't tell me. You can say, well, I'll figure it out myself. No, you won't. There's a ton of literature written on the topic in a lot of different places. You're right. You got one source. Very good. You got one source. Now there are 20 other sources that complicate the situation incredibly. So you say, what? I can't take the Torah literally? Depends what it is. Depends what the circumstances are. Yeah, there are times you absolutely have to rebuke. Even if they're not going to listen. Even if they're going to make fun of you. Sure, 100%. There are other times, maybe not. It's complicated. It's a complicated thing. Right? So here the question is, we're not allowed to be compassionate like Hashem. You're allowed to be compassionate. You're allowed to have compassion in certain circumstances. In other circumstances, if you're compassionate when you shouldn't be, you're cruel. We're not going to be compassionate like God is. That's never going to happen. Because God has an infinite amount of patience. We don't. If we're very close with someone and they cross the red line, that relationship is never the same. It's never the same. And it makes sense in a certain way why it's not the same. Because you wanted something from them, you trusted them, and they did something behind your back. They did something you didn't want them to do. You gave them certain information, you made it clear, don't repeat that to anyone. Yeah, and they blabbed it to somebody. And that made you, very uncomfortable. Not to mention it's Lashon Hara, but you went against what they said. What you said. So when a person does that, and let's say they really feel bad and they really apologize, is that relationship the same? Probably not. Could be, maybe, the person will make amends and everything is good. Once the person's gotten burned, at least once, or if it happens a second time, they're not going to make the same mistake. They're not going to do it again. Why not? They got burned. God has got burnt by mankind throughout history. There's a difference of opinion. The Gemara says between the house of Hill and the house of Shammai. 2.5 years, imagine, arguing the same thing. 2.5 years, they argue back and forth. Is there, was it a good thing that man was created or not? So they came to the conclusion it was better man shouldn't have been created. But the fact that man is created, you look into their actions. 2.5 years, they had this discussion. They understood the psyche of man. What we're capable of. in good and in bad, etc. But someone who's truly compassionate, let's say, right? I'll throw this idea out there. Let's say somebody wants to imitate God. So they have as much compassion for others that you can't imagine. Multiply it by infinity. Can't imagine such a person who loves other people so much and is so compassionate. Guess what? That person's going to be a dish rag. People are going to abuse them. Why? They're so compassionate. Right? That is not good. Should a person have compassion? Yeah. Yeah, I spoke last night or morning for most people, yesterday, right? And about empathy. There are people I've seen, my own eyes, my own ears. People don't know anything about empathy. Will not know what empathy means. Yeah, that's the other extreme. Right? You got to have compassion. All humans should have compassion, some level of compassion. But that level of compassion will never equal the level of compassion of God. Never. Because again, in practical terms, someone does something wrong against us in general, usually, again, I'm not saying always, usually that relationship is never the same. It'll never be the same. No matter how much they possibly may repent. Maybe it gets fixed up a little bit, this, that, but that relationship usually is never the same. And it shouldn't be the same. Why not? Because if you're compassionate when you shouldn't be, you'll get burned. Right? And it happens all the time. People trust people. And that person breaks the trust. When that trust is broken, almost no matter what the person does, it can't be fixed. And I'm saying if the trust is broken once, if it's broken more than once, then yeah, you give the person a second chance, right? What about giving a person a second chance? I'm not saying you can't, but you have to guard yourself. You have to realize the same thing could happen. Right? And so what's the statement? Shame on me once, shame on me twice. I don't know, whatever it is. I just butchered it. Right? But a person can make that mistake. Say, okay, you know what? I have a good heart. I'll let it go. Is that person a fool? No, not necessarily. Question is, what happens now? What happens afterward? What happens if they get burned again? They get burned again, okay. So they can't trust this person with whatever they're trusting them with. They're not trustworthy. We will never, so the answer is, we will never have that kind of compassion that God has. Well, that wasn't the question, you'll say. Does God want us to be compassionate? Sure. Right? How much? As much as we can. As much as we can, we should be compassionate. Should someone, should someone take a stranger in their house, help them, feed them, give them a place to stay, but they smell? Not everyone can do that. Take a vagabond, help them, this, that. Not everyone can do that. You say, but what you're giving them a home, you're giving them help, this, that, trying to rehabilitate. Very good. Let's say person got all these great character traits. Other person won't go near that like a barge pole. Be afraid of other things. Okay. Does that mean they have to be that compassionate? I don't think they're going to be held accountable for that. There are, some exemplary people. Very, very exemplary people that are willing to do things most people wouldn't. Is God going to have a claim against us because we couldn't do it? I don't think so. Right? It doesn't make sense that he would. There's certain things we can't do. Maybe that's my test in this world. Maybe, but I don't think so. It's a great question. How compassionate should we be? I don't have an answer. I'm sorry. Question is, how much compassion does God want us to have? He wants us to be compassionate. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question. How far? It depends on the person. There are people more compassionate, less compassionate. I've seen people less compassionate. It's like running in, it's like running for the train and getting slammed. There's no compassion there. Some person said, it looked like it must hurt. Right? So in the Midwest, maybe some people would have picked me up. Maybe. Depends what part of the world you're in. Or what part of America you're in, maybe. Yeah. I didn't see any compassion. Okay, you're going to say that's the way the guy's compassionate. He says, well, look like must hurt. But he didn't help me out. So that compassion? I don't know, very low level of compassion. But I see people don't even have that. Empathy, if it would have hit them in the face and knocked them on the keister, they wouldn't have woken up. Totally wouldn't have woken up. Someone will say, Rabbi, you're exaggerating. Nope. Right? I'm not going to go into detail. Not exaggerating. Totally not exaggerating. Empathy? No. Yeah. Does the person have to be overly compassionate? No. They have to have some level of compassion. What level? I can't answer. Only God knows that for each person. But what if a person grew up in a house? We'll throw this out there. See, someone threw out there, say, I grew up in a messed up house and my great, grandparents, they're all evil and this and that. Okay, so what about you? What does that have to do with you? What does that have to do with anything? Let's say your parents were messed up, right? A lot of parents could be messed up, even though they have kids. What if the parents aren't compassionate? What if they're not compassionate? What if they think more of themselves than they do of their own kids? Can happen. People get caught up in their own things. They can think it's all revolves around them. Okay. There are people, narcissists, think of only of themselves. How to deal with them. Okay, that's the whole discussion. Yeah. So, something happens and there's no compassion. So where's the kids growing up in such a messed up house? Where's the learning compassion from? You have to get it from other sources. But see, sometimes compassion can be bad. And a person can get abused in different ways. Because they're overly compassionate. They're overly helpful. And then they get burned. Right? So what level does God want from us? So a Jew is marked by three things. Mentioned this many times. Marked by Rachmanim, by Shanim, Gimul, Chasadim. That we show compassion for others, and that's really the point of that quote. We get embarrassed easily, we do acts of kindness for others. So something that makes a Jew a Jew is the fact they have compassion for others. Can non-Jews have that? Sure. Does that mean they have a Jewish soul? No. Doesn't mean that. Everyone should have some level of compassion, even non-Jews. Why shouldn't they have compassion? It's just that we're more attuned, Jews are more attuned to that. I mentioned last night that you go into any ultra-Orthodox community and they have all these gemachs, gimul chesed, right? Acts of loving kindness. Person needs medicine. Someone's got a whole medicine, cabinet full of stuff. You can't get to the doctor or whatever. You need medicine now. Someone's got a lawnmower. You need to mow your lawn. Fax gemach, all these things. All these things. Secular world doesn't exist. Kind of funny, interesting. You go to any secular Jewish community, these things don't exist. What about a free loan society? Secular world? By Jews, right? They're gonna put money into something to help out others. Let them work hard. I worked hard. Let them work hard. Free loan? I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? So you're gonna tell me, but don't Jews in general do chesed for others exponentially? Sure. But if you're not connected to the source, then you're not gonna have that connection. Then you make all kinds of excuses why you don't, you help your own cause. Okay. Whatever, but that doesn't mean they show compassion. They can be philanthropic and throw their money in the garbage. People could raise money and do things here, here in Israel and raise money for the Arabs. Well, that's kind of silly, right? And you got the UJA giving all kinds of money, to Israel, busy. How many trees can you plant in Israel so the Arabs can burn them down? That's good. That's doing something positive. More trees for the environment. Beautiful. You leave your mind open till your brains fall on the floor. You're raising money for people who want to kill you? You're raising money for people that on the books, according to the Palestinian Authority, someone kills Jews, according to them, their family's getting paid every month. So all these donor nations, America included, part of that money is going to terrorist families for killing Jews. So why would you perpetuate that? You want to, not all Arabs are bad. All right, right? Not going to make any racist statements there. Yeah. If you look at the curriculum, how they're being taught to hate and to want to kill Jews. That's the curriculum. That's the curriculum for the last 50 years, 70 years, whatever it is. That's the curriculum. Well, we should change it. Very good. People in charge don't want to change it. They don't want to change it. You might say with only a few of them, and they're the fanatics, and the rest are not fanatics. Even if that would be true, who's in power? Who are the ones in charge? They're the ones calling the shots. I'm not saying every Arab wants to kill a Jew. Yeah, but at the same time, the hatred on the street is because of what they're feeding them. Yeah. So you're going to say, well, I want to help the system. Help that system, you have to rip to shreds. That's the only way to help it. You have to destroy it. So now you're going to, how could you help somebody in general if their whole goal is to kill Jews? Someone did a video. It was a very cute video. Very well done. And they interviewed, they were interviewing some LGBTQ people. They asked them what they thought about, what's going on in Israel. And they were talking about how, it's apartheid and what the Israelis are doing to the Arabs and this and that. And, and we should support the Arabs and blah, blah, and BDS and all this. Yeah. So then there's a clip that he's interviewing a quote unquote a moderate Arab. And he says, what do you think about people that are, that are gay? And he says, oh, what do you mean? They should be raped, they should be abused, and we should kill them. He had a few other good things to say. Yeah. So this person, like, first of all, these gay people have no idea what's going on in Arabs' mind. They only think of what the media shows them and this and that. So this person showed them the clip of what this Arab said. This quote unquote, this Arab's a moderate. Yeah. I'm not even going to go into who's a moderate, not a moderate. Claims, okay, according to this, he's like quote unquote a moderate. Yeah. That's what he said. They were horrified. They were horrified. They're like, oh, we'd never give money to that. People don't know. People just don't know about issues. And they talk a big game. They say all kinds of things. They don't know. They don't know jack squats, my language. But they're very vocal. They're very vocal. This guy just rammed it right in their face. They're like, you should see the expression. They were horrified. Horrified. I would never support them now. So how could anyone legitimately say, they have a right to their own state and this and that. We're going to help try and support them, and raise money for them and all this. And on the books, they're paying people to kill Jews, and they're on the payroll every month. So what's the simple answer? You say, well, people are stupid. Yeah, maybe. But what's the simple answer? They'll say the freedom fighters, they have a right. This is war. So they should be supported. But that's where your money's going. That's where it's being helped support. I'm not saying all of it, but a lot of it, that's where, some of it, that's where it's going. The Israelis have tried to stop a number of times this whole thing. Stop giving them money, and this and that, try to tell all the other nations why you're giving them so much money. They still have on the books. They want to take it off the books. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. Why not? People feel bad for them. They want to support them. Look what Israel's doing. The big bully, all this. We're not going to get into politics. Didn't I say that? Yeah. But look at what they're doing. Millions of shekels a month going to people having terrorist attacks against Jews. On the books, everybody knows it. You want to be compassionate? You want to root for the underdog, this and that. You want to be compassionate? You're an idiot. That's not being compassionate. That's being stupid. That's being a fool. That's throwing money straight in the garbage. Yeah. But they're not going to stop. So you say, cut them off, let them, yeah, good luck. That's not going to happen. Trump shut down. You can say whatever you want about him, right? He shut down one of their main places in Jerusalem. And did some other things. They were rip-roaring mad, took money right out of their hands. Oh, yeah, that puts pressure on them, doesn't it? And he's like, I want you to change the rhetoric, change this, change that. They weren't interested. They want to go back to the Democrats. They want to go back to the status quo. We want to do whatever we want. And we're going to get all this money and use it for ourselves, not give it to everybody else. We're going to use it to keep it all the old cronies in there, whatever. Not about infrastructure. Infrastructure sucks. Bad word to use. Their infrastructure is awful because the money's being abused. That's what it is. You want to change that mentality? Good luck. I'm all for it. How's it going to happen? How's it going to happen? They hate Jews. They want to take over the land. They want, the Jews not to be in the land. Period. That's what they want. That's what they've been preaching for the last 70 years. More. That's exactly what they've been preaching. How do you stop that? You got to re-educate them. You got to rip up all these books and start from scratch. That's what you got to do. But damage has already been done. So how compassionate can you be? I mean, for goodness sakes, again, we're not talking politics here, right? They were willing to give 95% of the West Bank, which is indefensible. And thank God Mr. Arafat didn't want it. He wanted all of it. But they've broken every single agreement. Every last agreement they have broken. That's compassionate gone crazy. Crazy. And the UN is all about going back to the 67 borders, giving them a land and this and that because they were their own people. Rubbish, the English would say. Come on. No such thing. One of the three biggest lies in the world. One of the three biggest, that there was the Palestinian people. Yeah, Christianity being the first one, evolution being the second one, that being the third. Probably others in between. But I'm going to put it in the top 5. One of the single biggest lies ever. Right? Mark Twain, Samuel Langhorne Clemens came here in the late 1890s or 1880s. Yeah, there's nobody here. The place was flattened like a pancake, like all the prophets say. Boy, where was this whole nation? Where was this whole nation? Oh, you ripped them out of their places. You tore down their buildings. You sent them into exile. Where were they? Where were they? They weren't here. Yeah, some part of Lebanon, some part of Egypt. You had, Syrians. You had others. You had Jordans. Jordanians. Jordan's not a word. Jordanians. You didn't have a whole group of people had their own nation. That you threw them out, you took away everything. Remember, we always bought the land also. We bought it legally. I remember Baron de Rothschild. I bought land legally. And then the students of Vilna Gaon were the first ones to come here, dig out the swamps. A lot of them died of malaria. They were the real Zionists that came first. But when anyone tell you otherwise. So where are all the people? Where's the whole nation? And I can say, we fought a defensive war. We're the ones at fault. But that's a huge lie. Huge. And they make it sound like, we're the big bullies and we did all this and we did all that. We made them into an entity. We made them quote unquote into a Palestinian people. The Israelis did. So whose fault is that? It's ours. So now they're just going on that. I would agree if they would want peace. Good, let's have a discussion. But look at all the peace accords. Just Google it. All you have to do, Google it. And you see, they broke every single one. Every last one. So why do we still think? Why do some Israelis still think you can make peace? Who are you making peace with? All people want is that there shouldn't be any terrorist attacks. I agree. I also want no terrorist attacks. I also want everything to be nice and smooth and everything's easy. Very good. But I don't believe in the tooth fairy. Right? It's a fairy tale. It's gonna, they are gonna strike, they are gonna do things, this, that. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It'll get worse before the Messiah comes. Okay. Not much we can do about it. I understand what's behind it. Parents don't want to send their kids to war. They don't want to send their kids out. I get it. It's a dangerous situation, 100%. 100%. But at the end of the day, what do? It'd be one thing if there's somebody to talk to. But they've broken so many different agreements nothing left to say. There's nothing left to say. But they'll convince everybody we're the ones who are wrong. As any other nation in the world, Google this historically, any other nation fought a defensive war, ever had to give land back? Never. Americans giving land back to the Indians. They took it from, the Mexicans. You got to give California, New Mexico, Texas back to the Mexicans. I don't think that's going to happen, right? Florida going to give back to Spanish. That ain't going to happen. The Indians, they'll give them a few, strips of land, and they'll be sniffing aerosol cans and having, Native Americans, we'll call them. And, they'll have casinos. Very good. That's compensation. Yeah. The only time we've ever seen anything like a population exchange was in India and Pakistan in the 70s. That's it. So what are people claiming? What are people claiming? We're going to give land back. To what? Let them take the land. They think it's theirs. Let them take it. Oh, it's not fair. You got an army. We don't have an army. And you got nuclear weapons. And we don't have this. And okay, you want, the first Rashi in Genesis, right? In the name of Rashi's father, some of the commentary says, I'm a Rebbe Yitzchak. Yeah, why did the Torah start with Genesis? Why didn't it start with the first mitzvah? Exodus chapter 12, first mitzvah, Rosh Chodesh, the new month. Start with it. Why are you telling me these stories about creation, this and that, right? So Rashi says, you know why? Because the non-Jews don't have a claim. They're going to say you booted out all the nations, all the 7 nations, you booted them out, right? So they're going to claim, not fair. Oh, what do you mean? Genesis chapter 1, God created the world. God giveth, God taketh away. Chump don't want it, chump don't get it. That's it. You don't deserve it, so God took it away. You want it? God will give it to you. If you don't deserve it, you won't get it. Right? There's always a question on that. The question is, they say, I don't believe in the Bible. We want the land back. We deserve the land back. Right? Maybe it's a moot point. You're not talking the same thing. Right? But anyway, Rashi says that's why Torah starts out the way it does. For exactly that reason. They can't make any claim. So what are they crying about? What are these poor, helpless Palestinians? What are they crying about? Oh, we want this part of the land. We want that part of the land. You took it away from us. Yeah, finders keepers. Go take it away from us. You got the power to do it. Oh, you want to make all these terrorist attacks. You want to make problems to the right wing. So now the left's going to get in power and give you the land. Oh, that's probable. That is definitely probable. They could do that because they're very open-minded. They can certainly do such a thing. Yeah. But no one has ever in history, I'm not just talking recent history, in the history of man, no nation has ever given land back in a defensive war. It's never happened. Why all of a sudden by us it has to happen? Oh, Israel's different. Why is Israel different? 22 Arab states. Let them go somewhere else. They got 22 Arab states. They want a little piece of land the size of the state of New Jersey? Yeah. They want to destroy us. That's what they want. So that's another example without getting into politics. That's another example. We're overly compassionate and we're fools. We're absolutely fools. Because here you're going to say, these poor people, this and that, we don't want to have any war, give them what they want. Yeah, that's foolish. For a lot of reasons, right? So that's compassion gone crazy. Yeah, hope that answers the question. Somebody asks, if we're compassionate when we're not supposed to be, is it cruel? Yes, that's the answer. If you're compassionate where you're not supposed to, that can be cruel. Sure. Maybe it depends on the situation, but I would say a lot of the time, a person, if they're compassionate, they're a fool. When they shouldn't be. It's when they're not allowed to be. Not that, well, if they feel like it or they don't feel like it. No. If they're not allowed to be, then they're a fool. right? Then they're not allowed to be compassionate, right? Over here. Someone asks, child's running around hitting us on the head on Shabbos. And you said you can't discipline it. I didn't say you can't discipline on Shabbos. I never said that. Right? I don't want to be misquoted here. You're allowed to discipline even on Shabbos. I mean, obviously you can't break the laws of Shabbos, right? But you're allowed to discipline. My question was, people don't want to discipline. People sometimes are afraid to discipline. Because the kid will say, you discipline me this way, I'm going to go off and, I'll show you. Well, you make your own choice. The world is not hefker. It's not ownerless. You can't just do whatever you want. There are rules, right? There's a good example. Can't have a kid going around bopping people on the head, right? I had the Shabbos by me, but my grandkids throwing things that were hard. And you get hit by that, that's painful. Parents swooped in and stopped them. They're not allowed to do it. You want to throw this? Throw it as hard as you want. You want to throw this? Not a problem. These you can't throw. You have to discipline. 100% you're allowed to discipline on Shabbos. Right? That's not a problem. The thing is, you're not allowed to discipline in a way where you're going to make them do something forbidden on Shabbos. That's a different issue. I wasn't talking about that. But disciplining on Shabbos, sure. Why is it forbidden? Why would it be forbidden? That wouldn't be an issue. 100% that wouldn't be an issue. Somebody asks, if we burn out, if we try to change everything at once, who says you try and change everything at once? That's a mistake. That's a serious mistake. And that's what the evil inclination wants. The evil inclination wants to change this, change that, change the other thing till you burn out. That's what the evil inclination wants. You can't. It's impossible to change everything at once. Impossible. You got to take little by little, step by step building blocks. At some point you got to start doing more. Okay. But who says you do everything at once? That's a recipe for disaster. 100%. Right? Nobody in their right mind, and if they would, you tell me who they are because they're wrong. That says you got to change everything all at once. Right? That's just false. Someone who's becoming a Baal Tshuva, what are the two main things you tell them to do first? Keep kosher because of Tintum Alev, this idea that it makes the heart, it dulls the heart, makes them apathetic, and Shabbos, because Shabbos is all about God creating the world. So those are two things that are crucial to start with. You don't start with a million things at once, you kill them. Try and tell them they got to dress a certain way. Try and tell them, that you can't speak Lashon Hara. Other things that they can't do. You hit them step by step. You don't hit them all at once. Not about Tshuva, not a JIT, not a Jew in training. That is forbidden. That's forbidden. I did say, and it's true, for a convert, it's all or nothing. Right? It's gradual, for sure. About Tshuva, we're not going to tell them it's all or nothing because we don't want to lose them. Right? A Jew, a secular Jew, you don't want to lose them. So you don't tell them it's all or nothing. You tell them you take on whatever you can take on. You try and encourage Shabbos and Kashrus, yeah. But even if that goes slow, okay. They have to know it's forbidden. They have to know what the boundaries are, fine. But you don't tell them all at once, even though that's where they have to go. That's what they have to end up doing. But you kill them. You absolutely destroy them. Yeah. It's impossible to do everything at once. And you shouldn't do everything at once. And if anyone ever said you should do it all at once, they're wrong. They're 100% wrong. You do it step by step, what you can do. But the evil inclination is very good. The evil inclination is going to come along and say you did this sin, the other sin, you keep doing it. Right? And you're going to repent. But Kaufman said you can't repent because you did it on purpose. Good thing you're not Jewish. But you got to work on it. You got to make a plan or you're not going to do it. Yeah. They're going to do things step by step. I would tell people, yeah, it's great to learn. It's great to be inspired. But sometimes you just need to chill. Sometimes you just need to take a break. Not everyone's a machine. They can learn all day. Not everyone can do that. Certainly women don't have that obligation, not even close. But they should also live inspired. They should all, also learn what they need to learn. No question. You got to take it step by step. Because the world, what's the evil inclination going to do? Comes on, the evil inclination going to say, oh, you made this mistake, you made that mistake, Jews are never going to accept you. They're never going to accept you, and you have to move, and you have to this, you have to that, it's overkill, right? Your brain's going to explode. So what are you going to say? You're right. You're right, I'm a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. Yeah, we all make mistakes. Well, you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to just blow it off and say, well, I made a mistake, tomorrow's a new day. You got to think. You got to be misbinding. You got to think into it. What mistake did I make? What's the source of why I made the mistake? And then work on not doing it again. Well, what's the problem? You did it again, a second time, a third time, a fifth time, a 10th time. Now it's become part of your system. Once it becomes part of your system, it's very hard to fight against because now you got bad habits. How do you fight bad habits? Musar. You got to learn Musar, ethics. But you don't make yourself feel like 100% like a piece of dirt. I mean, it's good to understand you made a mistake. It's good that you want to grow. You want to go in the right direction. Do not destroy yourself in the process. That's easy. I mean, I'm good at doing that also. If you need any help, I'd be glad to help. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah, it's very easy. But it's always a but. Yeah, and the but is that the evil inclination wants to bury you. The evil inclination wants to tell you you're not any good. The Jews won't accept you. You can't even pronounce Hebrew properly. They're all going to make fun of you. They're all going to stay away like the plague. No one's going to help you. Communities won't help you. You get dumped on like left and right. All these things could happen. All your worst fears could happen. But what does the evil inclination do? Plays on that. And even if you're okay with certain things, then it makes you second guess. And once it makes you second guess, the evil inclination says, gotcha. Right? What does God want? God wants a person to know that you have to try. You have to make an effort. That's what you're obligated to do. Now, that being said, are we going to make mistakes? We'll make mistakes. Hopefully we don't make so many mistakes. But what if you keep making the same mistake over and over again? Right, I've heard this many times. From a lot of different people. I keep doing this, that, and the other thing. Okay, stop it. I can't. It's too much a part of me. Okay, now figure out why you do it. What's the source of it? Or I'd say do it less. The problem is the more you feed it, the harder it is to stop. Whatever the addiction is. Right? Whatever the thing you keep doing over and over again. Right? I'm not going to say it's like a person who's a heroin addict and you got to take them off, otherwise they're going to die, probably of a drug overdose. Right? But then you got to give them you got to give them other medicine because their body's craving the heroin. So you got to regulate the body, and that's, it's also hard. It's also hard. So, instead of, wallowing in self-pity, and I did this, I did that, and I did the other thing. Okay. You understand you made a mistake. You understand you have certain desires that it's very hard to stop. Okay. So I want to hear what you're doing to correct it. I understand all this. I'm not saying I don't have the same issues either. Yeah. So what are you doing to correct it? You can say, I'm venting. I'm asking you, how do I correct it? Yeah. You got to make a plan. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing. Person can say, let's say I got a bad anger gene. Yeah. Any little thing, it sets me off. Why? Because it's annoying. Okay. Now, even if it's annoying, that give you a right to blow your stack? No. Anger, one of the worst character traits a person can have. Everyone has anger, right? Some more, some less. But everybody has it. You got to control it. You got to get rid of it. Let's say better. You have to get rid of it. Yeah, but someone gets upset at the drop of a hat. Change it. You'll destroy people and yourself in the process. Definitely not good to, you don't need that kind of stress. Right? But you say, I've been that way for so long. So what? You got to start somewhere. You got to understand. Person has to understand themselves. What triggers things? What gets them so upset? And role play. See, I should be a psychologist. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, person should role play, meaning this thing happens. This thing sets you off. Okay. Why? Right? What's your reaction? You see X, Y, and Z. You're going to say, I feel my head's going to explode. I want to scream. Okay. It happened right now. What do you do? You're in the middle of it right now. So you got to think of mechanisms, or speak to someone who can help you with this. Think of mechanisms how to deal with it. How to deal with when people say something stupid. See, I have a hard time with that. I'll admit. But I've learned over the years, not everything has to be answered. Not everything is personal. Can't take everything personal. Why do I say it's not personal? Because they're just trying to get under your skin. They're not, it doesn't mean anything to them. But you say it's so important to me. How could they just sit there and make fun of it, make fun of God? Because they don't care. There are a lot of uncaring people out there. Yeah. So, over the years it got easier because I just realized what they say doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how below the belt it is. It doesn't matter. All right. The best advice I ever got, and I'll mention this again, from one of my rabbis was, these people are insane. I'm not going to take with someone who's insane seriously. They might be annoying. Maybe you lash out once in a blue moon, but they're annoying. Okay. So, and if someone, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that someone's mentally retarded, right? Someone is, has special needs. Why should I get upset? What they do, it's annoying. I would agree in certain ways. I was on a bus today. I'll give an example. I was on a bus today, and some guy, American, and he wanted to make sure the bus driver knew where he's getting off. He's like in the sort of the back of the bus. And this guy's screaming. It wasn't like, telling the bus driver, listen, I got to get off at the next stop. He goes up to see him, whatever. Or he tells someone, just tell him, I have to get off at the next stop. You got to get close to the curb because it was on like a little cart or whatever, like a golf cart type of thing. Getting around, but screaming at the top of his lungs. I heard someone say, why is this guy screaming? I was also thinking that. Yeah, I didn't even want to look at the person. I just didn't want to have any, negative thoughts about the person, etc. Now, I don't think this guy was mentally challenged here. That wasn't the case. Right? I'm pretty sure that, that wasn't the case. Why did he scream? Every 2 minutes, he's like, driver, I'm getting off at the next stop. Make sure I'm close to the curb. Said in English, said in Hebrew. And everyone, it wasn't, it wasn't like it was just between him and the bus driver. It was like the whole street knew. Like cars were stopping and looking like, who is that? Who's saying that? Like, they're like, wow, it's God. No, it's this guy screaming on the bus and the windows are open. Guy screaming at the top of his lungs. Yeah, I was sad. So you say, well, the person know what he was doing? No, I think the person knew exactly what they were doing. I know, they want to make sure they get off at the next stop. The driver stopped because it doesn't always stop, even if the button's pushed, right? Sometimes the driver doesn't stop, whatever. So you got to warn him. But this guy was warning him every 50 feet, right? Screaming at the top of his lungs. Right, it was sad. I'm not going to say not. It was weird. It's totally strange. The guy screaming at the top of his lungs. Because how do you know he wasn't mentally challenged? I don't, but the way the person talked, he didn't speak like he was mentally challenged. Certainly didn't look like he was mentally challenged either. So, you see something like that, you wonder. You wonder. Okay, so now, somebody like that, and they're talking to you. You're trying to have a conversation, they're screaming, they're right in front of you. Yeah, so now you're sizing up the person. If they're mentally challenged, they're screaming right in front of your face just to say, hi, how are you? Like, I'm not deaf, right? I might be older, but I'm not deaf. Yeah. So you try and size them up. Now, let's say for argument's sake, someone does that, or someone pushes you aside. Before you're about to say something, you look at the person, you realize it's Down syndrome. Yeah. So they have an IQ of a 5-year-old. It's not their fault. Totally not their fault. But they just like pushed you aside, this and that, and you say, well, say, excuse me. They don't have the capacity. Right? Some people higher functioning, less functioning, doesn't matter. In general, someone doesn't have the capacity. Yeah, that's what they do. Now, is it annoying? Person will be annoyed. Yes. Okay. They'll be annoyed. But when you look at them and you see them, you have compassion. 100%, you're going to have compassion. Yeah, you're not going to blow your. Why are you going to blow your stack? You're going to say because it's annoying. And you get pushed aside and stepped on my foot. Okay, and it hurt. Okay, right. But you're about to open your mouth to see who it is. You're going to let it go. You're 100% going to let it go. You know why? The person doesn't know what they're doing. You're going to say it's going to be educated. You're going to stop the person. All right, everything within reason. But when someone says something and they don't have a clue about anything, why in the world am I going to get upset? You're going to say, because it's cruel. It's mean what they said. Yeah. Maybe it is. Why am I wasting energy on it? Well, the person can't even read Hebrew. The person doesn't know diddly squat. And they're saying, oh, man, someone once told me, where I live, on the buses, women go in the back of the bus. So they don't have to go in front of men and, for modesty reasons. Yeah. So someone once said, hey, haven't you ever heard of Rosa Parks? What are you going to answer to that? Rosa Parks, anyone doesn't know, the black woman refused to get off, the back of the bus, right? The 50s. I think it was the 50s or 60s, whatever it was. Before, blacks had more rights and different things. Yeah, did you ever hear of that? Well, it's not discrimination. It's about modesty. Not all bus lines, by the way, do that. There are certain places they have bus lines like that. Okay. But people choose that. They choose to live in such a place. Everywhere else in Israel, they have it like that? No, people sit wherever they want. That's not an issue. Oh, did you ever hear Rosa Parks? Yeah, what about her? Do you know who she was? I know who she was. I know what she did. There's no connection. Well, that just diffused the whole situation. No connection. It's about modesty. That's what it is. People don't like it, whatever, fine. They don't understand it, fine. It's not discrimination. Totally, this is just the opposite. Showing how much we respect women. Totally the opposite. You're going to say, but isn't that offensive? Yeah, it is. 100% it's offensive. It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. It's going to say, what is that telling you? What are they trying to tell you? They're trying to tell you you're a backwards hillbilly. Whatever. No offense to hillbillies. Right? Right? They're telling you you're 100% backwards. You and your kind are 100% backward. Okay? Now, do I have an obligation to say anything? They're not going to hear your argument anyway. But I would say, yeah, it's for modesty reasons. We respect women. That's why we do it. Very quick answer. That's it. Yeah. I'm going to raise my voice. Why do I raise my voice? Because you said something stupid? Right? Yeah. So the point is, what's the point? I lost my own parable here. The point is that, yeah, the evil inclination can kill us. And say, you did this, you did that, you can't do this, and why the rabbis say this, I'm right to listen to them, I shouldn't have to listen to them, I can make up my own things, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. But what's going to happen is that, a person has to realize you can't do everything at once. You can't, it's impossible. So you take on what you can do. And you take on step by step. That's the way it works. This is the way the evil inclination. The evil inclination wants you to do things all at once, right? That's exactly what the evil inclination wants. Nothing more, nothing less. And that'll kill you. So if a person has difficulty, they've learned for an hour, 2 hours, they're tired, they're flaking out, so stop. Do things you enjoy to do also. Learning, yeah, we have an obligation to learn. Men have an obligation to learn, women less. But do things you enjoy to learn, you enjoy doing. It's not all about fire and brimstone. See, this is the problem. If I don't do this, I don't do that, I'm going to fry out forever. I'll never get out the 7th level of hell. So what? So now you know that according to Kabbalah, that doesn't bring about love of God. It does not bring about love of Torah. It doesn't. It just makes people feel worse. A heck of a lot worse. You need it? I'm not going to say not. You definitely need it. So, it's the base. It is the base, 100%. Okay. Even if it's the base, you got to do things you enjoy to do. It's not just all doom and gloom. You got to live inspired. How do you live inspired? Listen to inspiring stories, inspiring classes. Listen to things that make you feel good. Read things that make you feel good. But yeah, you got to be holy by a certain level, certain things you got to do. And it's hard. Sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you just need to chill, read other things, lighter things. But is it intense? Oh, yeah. It's intense. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to learn, right? There are things we have to change about ourselves. It's tremendously intense. Doesn't mean it can't be fun. Doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable. Yeah, but you're right. Your brain gets tired and gets tired. That's when to stop. It's like when a person's learning with their kid. Give an example. If you're learning with it, let's say, you're going to learn for an hour. So what do? After 45 minutes or 15 minutes, you stop. Say, okay, we're going to stop here. Now, why would you stop early? You say, nope, we're going to learn for an hour, right? Another 10 minutes. Why would you stop early? First of all, probably the kid wants to stop anyway, but you would stop early to give them flavor for the next time. That's not just all we're going up to, if they want to continue, okay, but it's to like entice them for the next time. But this is a serious question. People can burn out. So I always say you got to live inspired every day, even when it's hard. When's the easiest time to burn out? When it's hard. I have to get up early. I'm tired. I only get 2 hours of sleep and this, and I got obligations and whatever. It's hard. And there's no doubt about it. It's hard. Yeah. When life beats us down, that's when we want to throw in the towel. And even if life beats us down, I've said it a million times, write 20 things down you're thankful for. I'm not going to say it's going to get you back to learn. But at the same time, when you're thankful for enough things, you won't get burned out. Again, you might learn less. You might just, your body's drained. Remember one thing, the Gemara says when you learn, it makes you weaker. Why does it make you weaker? Because it's hard. Using your brain, maximizing brain capacity is hard. Right? So I brought down many years ago that we only maximize 3%. 3% of our brain. Right? Most people. Could be it's higher today, I don't know. Right? That's what I saw many years ago. So even if you're maximizing 3%, think about it. It's intense. Learning is intense. I mentioned earlier, person could, learn something and you're missing 20 steps. You only get in the end result. So you're missing all the steps before that. But I want them now. I want to learn it now. I'm going to take this book, right? Put it on my head, osmosis, right? You see that? Osmosis. Doesn't work that way. It's a grind. Yeah, but even if it's a grind, every day it's building blocks. That's how you don't get burnt out. You take it step by step. You don't jump through hoops. You don't jump levels. You do what you need to do, the most important thing, whatever you need to do, but you don't jump levels. That's where you get burnt out. And then, you also get burnt out because you're afraid, I do this wrong, I do that wrong, I do the other thing wrong, that's it. Okay, we make mistakes. We want to minimize making mistakes. Very good. At the same time, what do we have to do? We have to work hard. You have to work hard. You have to know the repercussions for your actions. And a lot of these times, you have to realize what's going to happen is you're going to get beaten down in life. And that's where the questions come up. That's where a lot of the questions come on. Life is hard. So how do you live inspired? Okay, that's, I would say the more things you hear that are inspiring, the more you want to be inspired. If it's all about doom and gloom, who wants to be inspired? For some people, that's inspiring for them. Okay. I would say for some people, it's not inspiring. It's depressing. It's deflating. Yeah, that's how I would answer that. Can a woman carry a concealed weapon for protection? Depends what type of weapon. In general, a weapon is considered a male garment, but for protection, there are rabbinical authorities hold it's permissible. But whatever, it's not so simple. In general, it should be forbidden. Right? What's the source? You see, Yael by Sisera, right? She got drunk basically, or very tired. She tired him out, and she killed him. Right? She killed him. How'd she kill him? took a tent peg, cut off his head. Why didn't she take a sword? Right? That's the obvious question. She should have taken a sword. Why didn't she take a sword? She didn't take a sword. Very simple reason. Very simple reason that male garment. Right? It's one of the explanations. She wasn't allowed to take a sword. So she didn't use a weapon. She used a tent peg. Right? That's what she had, something sharp. So when someone's asleep, you stab them in the neck, well, you're probably going to win. Right? You cut the main artery, they die. Right? That's what happened. But why didn't she take a sword? Right? That's the question. Should have taken a sword. Why didn't you take a sword? Very simple. Because the sword's a male garment. It's a male garment. A woman's not allowed to use it. Right? In general, that's how we hold. But there are exceptions where women, are allowed to, as they say, pack a piece for protection. But whatever. Let's just say it's not so simple. There are other things involved. Also, it's a complicated question. Right? I do think actually spoke about it in self-defense. I think I spoke about it in controversial issues. Mentioned it. Someone asked, is there ever a time that empathy can be a bad thing? Is LGBTQ? Yeah, they try to justify themselves, getting us to feel empathy for them. We can feel empathy, right? I think a lot of them, in general, if you were to ask them, would you have chosen this path? With all the complications of this path, wouldn't you just have rather been straight and normal? And I think a lot of people would say yes. But for whatever reason, they can't be. Whatever reason they give. I think it's sad. I think there should be empathy. I don't think a lot of them want to be like that. Purposely say you're wrong, they all want to be like that. I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. As much as they want to, live the hype and all that, I don't think that's the case. But I think there should be empathy. I think there should be. It's wrong. We have to come out against it, 100%. We have to say it's forbidden. You're not allowed to do it, right? It's sad. I think it's very sad. There should be empathy. It doesn't mean we say it's right. Don't make the mistake. That's not being compassionate doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean we're saying it's right by any stretch. We're not saying it's right. They'll understand that. Like I said before, if I had my own synagogue, two guys walk in and say, listen, we're together, this and that. I'd lay the law down. Say, listen, you'll never get carried up to the Torah, you'll never make a kiddush, you'll never do this, you'll never do that. Anything I can help you with, I'll help you with, but there are certain things you can't let go. Certain things you can't do. This is too blatant. Too blatant. Yeah, so you say you'll turn off people, okay? So the modern Orthodox people have a problem with this because it's prevalent in their community. Much more prevalent. So they'll say, you got to welcome them, you got to this. Who says I have to welcome them? You have to have empathy with them. True? But you got to lay the letter of the law down. You got to say that's cruel, they'll sue you, maybe. Maybe they will. And then they say, what happens if they shut down your synagogue? Okay, so shut it down. Let them shut it down. I have to be that open-minded. Torah says forbidden. Torah says forbidden. Yeah, but what about people who commit adultery and steal and commit fraud and all that? They're part of the service, right? I'm not saying they can't be part of the service. They can be part of the service, right? They just, we're not going to give them any orders. What about these other people? This is worse. This is 10 times worse. Someone does a great job. It's no different. Same punishment. How can you honor them? If they're growing in Torah mitzvahs, it's one thing. If they're not, how can you honor them? Can't call them to the Torah. The blessing in vain. Right? What's the blessing they make? Asher bachar banu mikol amim. You have chosen us among the nations. What? To intermarry? The blessing in vain, period. Can't call them to the Torah. Right? They're doing the worst sin. Pretty much the worst sin you could ever do. And you want to honor them? How can you honor them? You're going to say, what about other sins? Other sins are bad. I'm not saying that. I'm totally not saying no. Other sins are definitely bad. There are certain sins that are worse. Right? So people have to know why it's bad and the fact that we don't condone it. Now, not condoning doesn't mean you spit in their face. Doesn't mean that. You have to show compassion. You have to show some empathy, but you have to lay the law down and what it is. Someone asked, okay, second parsha, last week's parshas Kedoshin, mentions not passing baby through fire to Molech, right? That was one of the idols. It's passed baby through fire. Yeah. Is this verse one we can use to show a prohibition both of abortion and pedophilia? I don't know what the connection is. Here, there's a question exactly what they did. There are two opinions. Two opinions the rabbis give us. One is they just put them over the coals of fire and passed them through. Yeah, they didn't die. The other opinion is they actually threw them into the fire. So we'll go according to the second opinion. That shows 100%, right? I have to see how the Christian is going to answer this. But that shows human sacrifice forbidden because that's called an abomination. The act itself is an abomination. Yeah. So that's idolatry. All right. There's essentially idolatry here. So that has nothing to do with abortion or pedophilia. Right? Why would it have anything to do with that? You put it in through fire. Yeah. In other words, you're sacrificing them to their God, to a God, false God. That's idolatry. And nothing to do with pedophilia. Right? Or certainly abortion. Right? It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with the fact that, well, either pass them through fire or threw them in the fire. Right? In either case, human sacrifice. That's what it's talking about. Right? Abortion's a different issue. Abortion's not even necessarily learned out explicitly in the Torah. It's learned out through one of the verses. Right? Like a soul within a soul, nefesh b'nefesh, that you can't kill. You're not allowed to kill. Right? That's talking about a fetus. That's talking about a fetus. That's a different issue. Right? That's a different verse altogether. Totally different verse. Right? And so you have what's it called? You have pedophilia, talking about, pedophilia. So the Torah says, so, homosexuality is pedophilia, right? Essentially. Well, what do you have? Two consenting adults. Yeah. So maybe that's what you tell me that homosexuality is. And pedophilia comes under something else. Okay, it's still forbidden, but it's not because of this. This is a totally different thing. Hashem mentions the prohibition to slaughter demons. Yeah. What's their role? Read the book, Derech Hashem. Speaks about demons. Demons have certain character traits that man has, certain character traits that angels have. We don't come in contact with them. They don't have the same powers they used to. Yeah. God has a purpose for them. Right? The Ramchal and Derech Hashem, speaks about their forces a little bit. Right? What's the purpose? The purpose of slaughtering? He doesn't want them around. Right? He wants them to destroy. Right? He wants them destroyed. So he has a purpose for them. Right? The Ramchal doesn't say what their purpose is. He just says there's certain spiritual beings that are in human form. Right? They do certain things like humans, certain things like angels. Right? They're messengers like God. Like God uses them as messengers like any other spiritual force. What exactly for? Can't answer. Right? That's probably Kabbalah 101. Someone here says, the whole thing about disciplining on Shabbos. Someone said you're not on discipline on Shabbos. That's a first for me. Well, I would say someone say you're not on discipline on Shabbos. I mean, again, depends what the discipline is. If someone does something wrong, can't stop them. Come on. My grandson's throwing something that could hurt someone. Parents can't discipline them. Why not? That's it's a new one to me. I don't know any source for such a thing. Why there should be a source for such a thing. Unless it's something for you're disciplining them in a way that's forbidden on Shabbos. That the act itself, they can't do it. Or you're telling them to do something they can't do on Shabbos. That you can't do, obviously. Right? You can't tell them to desecrate Shabbos. So in this case, it makes no sense to me at all why someone would say you can't discipline on Shabbos. Someone says, Leviticus Chapter 17, verse 3-4, talking about sacrificing or killing for food. Let's see. Leviticus 17, verse 4. What does it say? We probably spoke about it. Probably one of my earlier classes, yeah. It says, he has not brought the angels to attend the meeting to bring it as an offering to sacrifice. shall be considered as bloodshed for that man. He shed blood, and that man shall be cut off. What's it? Again, you have to look at it in context. What's it talking about? Right, we haven't got there yet, actually. But what's it talking about? Go back before. It says in verse 3, any man from the house of Israel will slaughter an ox, a sheep, or goat in the camp. You have to slaughter it in a certain place. Yeah, or if he slaughters it outside the camp, but he didn't bring it to the tent of meeting, it's severe punishment. Right? You got to bring it to a specific place. Right? In other words, you're going to take that ox, sheep, or goat as an offering, but you're only supposed to offer it in a certain place. So if you offer it in a place you're not supposed to offer, it's considered bloodshed. It's like you shed blood for no reason. Not only that, the punishment is you get spiritually cut off. Right? It's pretty severe. In other words, you slaughtered in the wrong place. Let's say better. You brought it to the wrong place. But the sacrifice. I'm not talking about killing for food. It's a sacrifice. Right? You were supposed to bring this type of sacrifice in a certain place. The Torah says if you brought it in the wrong place, you get spiritually cut off. You get spiritually cut off. It's not talking about the blood itself. It's talking about the sacrifice. Right? Why? We have to see. We have to see why it's so severe. But you're only allowed to sacrifice in a certain place. Otherwise you're in a place, God's telling you go to X place. You don't go there. You go somewhere else. It's okay, I made a mistake. No. Not that you made a mistake. You sacrifice in a place you're not allowed to. Right? That's a severe prohibition for a Kohen. It's so severe it could possibly get spiritually cut off. Yeah. So it's talking about the sacrifice. That's what it's talking about. Someone here mentioned, let me see their other questions. We have time to tell about Sternbuch. I'm not going to do that now. Let me see. Someone asks, Har says something along the lines, if you eat a bird that died and you wash, you're unclean until night, but you don't wash, you bear the iniquity. That means a sin. Yeah. What does it say? In other words, you eat a bird that wasn't ritually slaughtered, right? It's what we call the veil. It died. Let's say the bird died of a heart attack, and now you eat it. Let's say you were about to slaughter it, you started to slaughter it, and then the bird died. You're also not allowed to eat it, right? You didn't slaughter it properly, right? So now, according if there was a temple in Jerusalem, you'd be unclean all night, right? But if you're unclean, right? If you're unclean, you don't go to the mikvah. What happens? What happens? You're going to say it's a sin. We eat it, yeah. But technically, one can eat non-kosher chicken, wash, and not have a sin. Why not? Right? I don't even understand the question. In other words, how can someone technically eat something if you eat non-kosher, it's not kosher, right? I mentioned someone asked me the question before. I don't remember if I answered it. I think I answered it one class that there was a question if a person had to eat non-kosher. They had to eat something non-kosher because I don't know they were starving, whatever, right? So they're non-kosher meat, let's say. Does that cause timtum olev? Does that cause a Jew's soul to be dulled? Right? To be apathetic? The answer is yes. Someone's going to say they're under onus. Right? They had no choice. Okay. But if you tell me it's a mitzias that it happens, that if a Jew eats non-kosher, it affects their soul, even if science hasn't proven it. So what do I care? What do I care if they did it on purpose or not? Or what do I say? Let's say better. What do I care if they did it under onus? If they did it under onus, aren't they still apathetic? Doesn't it still cause them to be, to dull the spirit? Timtum olev? Sure. Right? One of the later commentaries says that explicitly. Doesn't matter. In other words, there's a fact over here. What's the fact? The fact is, a Jew eats non-kosher meat, guess what? Even if they have an ulcer, they have to eat something, otherwise it's going to be in a dangerous situation. They happen to be in a store, it's got non-kosher meat. You don't have time to get kosher meat. You eat it. Doesn't that affect the soul in a negative way? Yes. 100% it affects the soul in a negative way. But you're under onus. So what? There's a mitzias. The mitzias is, let's say better, the reality is, it causes a person to be apathetic. That's what it does. But you're under onus. What do I care? You're under onus. right? That's see what I want to say. Why should it matter? You did it. No matter why you did it, does it have an effect on your soul or not? Yes, it does. Still has an effect, right? That's simply how we hold. So in this case, how can you eat a non-kosher chicken without a sin? Where do you not have a sin? I don't understand how you not have a sin. Yeah. According to this, yeah, you ate a bird that died, not according to kosher slaughter. You eat it. Is that a sin? It's a sin. We just said if you're under onus, it doesn't matter. Why is that not a sin? It's a sin. Right now, the question is, you touched it, you ate it, whatever. Now you have to wash. That's a different issue. You're still not allowed to eat it. So what if you wash? What do I give if you wash or not? That takes off the impurity, but doesn't take the impurity off your soul. The fact you ate it doesn't help. You get the impurity of your soul. It just so happens you have to now get the impurity of your body because you touched it. That's a different issue. Body and soul are a different issue. The body can be purified, the soul not. In other words, the soul's still going to feel it. The mikveh doesn't help. In that sense, the mikveh will not help in such a case. Someone asked, can a Noahide kill a wild feral animal that is killing his poultry? Yes. That's not a problem. Can a Noahide hunt for fun? Right, so there's a response by the Maharal. Maharal has a response of more than 300-400 years ago, and says for a Jew, can't do it. Jew can't do it. That's called considered cruel. That's cruelty to animals. Should apply to a non-Jew also. Hunting, again, not hunting for food. Hunting for sport. For a non-Jew, that would be forbidden. That would come under the Noahide laws about being cruel. Being cruel to animals. That you're not allowed to do. You're allowed to kill it. You would be, or trap it. You don't necessarily have to kill it. True, you don't have to, right? But if there's no other way to stop it, you could kill it because it's a danger. It's a danger. That's not a problem. You can't be cruel, right? Non-Jews have an obligation not to be cruel either, right? You can't be cruel to animals. Someone asked sexual prohibitions. Okay. To man and female. It says a man should not lie with his aunt. Yeah. It also applies to a woman not lying with her uncle, right? Why don't we say the same principle to a man lying with another man? Or with a woman to women? That's learned out from a different prohibition. Because the Torah in that parsha says later, it says you're not allowed, or I think before, it says before, that you're not allowed to go after the ways of the Egyptians. The rabbis learn out, what does that mean? What does that mean? You're not allowed to go in the ways of the Egyptians. It means a woman can't be a lesbian. That's what it means. Because the Egyptians were so immoral. One of the most immoral places in the history of man. It's where God sent Jewish people, interesting enough. But that's learned out from another verse. That's not learned out. You don't need this verse. You don't need this verse. Right? So you're going to ask, I don't know, why is a man lying with another man as with a woman? Because again, you're talking about intercourse. That's what you're talking about. Right? That's what it is. We'll keep this clean. Right? Two women cannot lie with a woman, can't lie with a woman like a man. It's just you don't have that body part. Right? Again, keeping that clean. So why is the Torah going to mention that? It's a different verse. We learn it out from a different verse. Right? But according to biology 101, right, or 101A, you don't have the same mechanics going on over here. That would be the reason. Additionally, it's a death penalty for this only for Jews or for non-Jews. Good question. Definitely, homosexuality is forbidden for non-Jews. Question is, and that would be death penalty. Is lesbianism? No, it's forbidden. I think it's forbidden, but I don't think it's death penalty. Pretty sure it's not death penalty for non-Jews. Yeah. I'll have to look into that, but I think that's the case. It's definitely forbidden, but not death penalty. Here a person says ferret cat can be captured. Okay. All right. The question was, can you kill it? if there's no other way and you can't capture it, yeah, you could. That's it's not a problem. No, that wouldn't be an issue. It's better not to if you can't. If there's no other way to get it, you kill it, right? That's you don't have to, if it's something dangerous, like a certain type of snake, or here you get scorpions, even on Shabbos, you kill it. A snake, okay, if snake's a poisonous snake, you can kill it. You don't have to trap it. Trapping's forbidden on Shabbos in general, right? But if if someone saw a scorpion anyone gets stung by a scorpion, you'll die. Yeah, you kill it. Positive command, you're saving lives. Right? You don't have to worry about Shabbos. You kill it. You don't trap it, you kill it. Because it's considered a total danger. Yeah, in this case, you don't have to kill it. You can try and trap it. 100%, you can try and trap it. Right? If there's no other way, let's say. There's no other way. The only way, because it gets out of the traps, I don't know, whatever it may be, it's too smart, then yeah, then you can kill it. You don't have to be that compassionate. I don't think you have to go that far. But you try and trap it. Try and trap it if you can. Right? If not, you kill it. I don't see why I don't see why that's a problem. What is Torah? It's expression of Hashem, part of Hashem. Yes, it's the blueprint of creation, right? Torah is the blueprint of creation. God looked into creation and created the world. How does that work? It's Kabbalah. Kabbalah 101, 101a. What is Torah? It's God's manifestation of what he wants us to do in this world. As he passed it down to Moses, we pass it down to us. That's essentially what it is. How did God speak to Moses face to face? That's a very good question. Again, Kabbalah 101 or 101a. But that's what we understand. It's the entire blueprint for creation. His manifestation of what he wants us to do in this world. Right? What exactly is it? Is it heavenly fire? I don't know. I don't even know what heavenly fire is. Right? Yeah, it says, the Gemara brings down that, when God wrote the Luchos, the tablets, it was written with, I don't know, with black and white fire together or something on these tablets. What does that mean? I don't know. Can't answer. Right? Other people probably, better equipped to, answer that question. Just throw another question, ask another question, and that is that, a person's is gonna get punished in hell, and it's gonna be these fires of hell. Well, how does fire attack soul? Soul is spiritual. Fire is physical. Yeah. So I don't want anyone saying, "Oh, he's heretic, doesn't believe in get him." I didn't say I don't believe in it. I'm just asking a question. Yeah, what type of fire is it? Is it physical fire? I'm going to be physical if you're a soul. So there's got to be something that affects the soul in some way. It either has I don't know if it's got the heat element, it's got the feeling of it, or whatever it is. But you're not taking pure fire and putting it on the soul. That doesn't do anything. That's like shooting fire into air. What's that going to do? Right? I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying, the whole question, what it is. Is it something physical, something the soul feels? It's a pain that the soul feels. What is it? Can't answer. Don't know. Someone asked, maybe Yael didn't have a sword. She could have used his sword. He had a sword. Yeah, that wasn't the question. That was not the question. Everyone asked the question because Sisera had a sword. It wasn't he didn't have a sword. She couldn't find it. He had a sword. So they asked her. So they asked the question, why didn't she use it? That would have been much easier than using a 10 peg. 10 peg, gets kind of messy over here. One sword, one shot. That's it. Good aim, boom, chop his head off. That's it. His body will contort and finish. A few seconds he'll die. Nice even cut the head off. 10 peg gets kind of messy. Yeah. Right. So the Gemara says there was a sword there. There wasn't a question, there wasn't a sword. There was a sword. Yeah, she wasn't allowed to use it. She understood she shouldn't use it for that reason. For exactly that reason. Abortion link is killing the child. Yeah. They say they had satanic, pagan, sex, matter, yeah, relation. Okay, so I don't know. Right. I don't know what the Gemara says. The Gemara speaks about throwing into a fire. A lot of, by the way, it is true, a lot of these pagan things, was all about, sexual practices and all that. That's true, right? That is definitely true. That 100% is true. A lot of these things had, a lot of these idolatrous things had to do with, with immorality, and all that. That 100% is true. Abortion, never heard such a thing, right? Having a connection to that. But this, but again, simple thing is that, it's human sacrifice. But that doesn't mean by these other pagan rituals there wasn't immorality involved. There was, right? That's definitely true. That's definitely true. Exactly what the connection with that and pedophilia and all that, I don't know. I have to do more research, but I don't, I'm just saying, when I learned it many years ago, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Gemara in Sanhedrin mentioned there were two explanations what it was. Again, either they put them through fire, they walked them through fire, they walked through fire, or they were actually thrown in the fire. So we'll take the second definition. They threw them in the fire. Yeah. Throwing them in the fire, that's human sacrifice, not 100% forbidden. You tell me they walked through the fire, okay, you'll say that's also bad, but would you call that, you would call that human sacrifice and die, right? It's an abomination. In either case, the Torah calls it an abomination, though it is pretty bad, whatever it is. Could these other things be related to it? Could be. I'm just not, aware of the sources, but it doesn't. Again, a lot of pagan ritual had to do with that. A lot of idolatry had to do with that. No question. How did the women of there was the women of Midian. How did they get the Jews to sin? To do idolatry. Right before the idol, they said, we want you to worship this idol. Like, we're not going to do that. Our God hates, idol worship. So how did they entice them? They say, well, I'm going to be inside if you want to be with me. You want to be with me? Do a little dance and bow in front of it. That's how they got them. So a lot of pagan ritual, right? A lot of idolatry had to do with that, 100%. 100%. When the final redemption happens, why will there still be sacrifice? There'll be certain sacrifices. Yeah, Thanksgiving offering. Why wouldn't there be a Thanksgiving? I think I mentioned this last week. Why wouldn't there be a Thanksgiving offering? Because you're giving thanks every day because, you're there at the end of days. Giving thanks because you're doing God's will. You're giving thanks every day. Thanksgiving offering you have. What about sin offerings? You won't have sin offerings. Right? 100% you won't have sin offerings because nobody's going to sin. Everyone's going to be doing God's will. So that's the question, next verse, which we didn't get to, which we'll speak about, I guess, next week. Right? And that is, the only two holidays going to be left, at the end of days, is going to be Purim and Yom Kippur. Right? So my question is, and I've asked it the last 3 weeks, and we still haven't got there, or we should get there next week, God willing, and that is, why would you have Yom Kippur? No one's going to sin. Everyone's doing God's will. If everyone's doing God's will and nobody sins, you don't need Yom Kippur. Right? Purim, whatever, it's a different issue. Right? It's all about divine providence. So divine providence makes sense, by the end of days. Yom Kippur makes less sense. So, that'll have to do it. Someone that has 2 meals lying together is equal to wasting seed. You're right. 100%. Right? But it's the act itself. Wasting seed is another problem. Right? But again, what about the act without wasting seed? That's going to be kind of hard. But let's say they didn't waste seed. Is the act forbidden? Sure. The act 100% is forbidden. Wasting seed also. Yeah. The assumption is the act is with that. That's the assumption. But it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. It could be that, they're doing whatever they're doing, but they don't waste it. But that's, I guess that's less fun. It's less fun over here. We'll keep this clean. So, it's still, the act itself is still forbidden. But remember one thing, you don't hate the person, you hate the act. And the act is called an abomination. We're gonna get there one day, we'll hit chapter 18. We'll get there at some point. Maybe next 10 years, I don't know the rate we're going. But the act itself is an abomination, not the person. But you're right. If they would waste seed, that's another issue. I agree. 100%. But I'm asking what happens if they don't waste seed. If they don't waste seed, the act is still forbidden. Yeah. The act is still going to be forbidden. Wasting seed is a different issue. But it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine doing what they're doing and that doesn't happen. I don't know. That seems all pretty much impossible. You're already at that point. You're not going to do that. It's hard to imagine, right? But I would agree. If they didn't do that, they withheld themselves somehow. They withheld themselves. Okay. Yeah. Is it forbidden? Is the act forbidden even if they don't waste seed? Yes. The act itself is forbidden. Some people say, the verse before that talks about idolatry. It's only idolatrous practices. No, it's its own individual isser. So it's forbidden by itself. Right? And nothing to do with idolatry. Right? Because if you look 20 verses before that, speak about what? Forbidden relationships. Then it happens to mention idolatry. We'll get there. Why does it mention idolatry right at the end? Right? All these relationships that are forbidden. Okay. So why does it mention idolatry? Good question. Juxtaposition of verses, what's going on? Very good. Then it speaks again about homosexuality. So you say, there's a connection to idolatry. Yeah. But you can't just take it out of context. Right? So I want to say it's only about pagan practices. It's only about idolatry. Who says about idolatry? There are 20 other verses that talk about immorality, forbidden relationships. So you don't think this has any connection? This is okay. What's the verse there about idolatry doing there? Good question. That's a legitimate question. But you can't throw out the other 20 verses and take it totally out of context. I mean, people do that, but it's totally unfair. So, we'll have to cover that when we get there, but homosexuality is not just forbidden because of idolatry. Not at all. Right? It's its own prohibition. Its own prohibition. Yeah, good questions here. Keep me on my toes. Yeah, any other questions? I'll spend another time speaking about my Rebbe. I don't want to speak about them now. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I just every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. I'm going to be speaking about actually coming the Messiah, how it applies to Nohides for Nohide nations. And anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or my orthodoxconversion.com. You can see my site over there. Or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. Got a lot of videos there. Pirkei Avos, Ethics for Our Fathers, Torah portion of the week, Q&As, all kinds of good things there. Also, controversial issues. Anyone has any questions, send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which I'm in good.